Sybilla, we spoke with Mitchell Taylor, who's a chief winemaker and the managing director of Taylor Wines in the last hour, and he called this move completely devastating for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to describe it any other way, Heidi. We know that we sell the most, China buys the most amount of Australian wine from us, and it's, really a matter now of trying to divert huge volumes of wine to other markets. That's a process that he's indicated could take a number of years. The company is planning for years of uncertain demand from China, and they've even sort of indicated that they're diverting its main brand, the marquee brand Penfolds, to other countries. And the markets that they're going to be looking at, they've sort of indicated the rest of Asia, North America, and Europe. But the fact that, they can't sell into China, which bought $1.2 billion worth of wine just to September this year, it's pretty devastating. And we're seeing that show up in all the share moves this morning.
And we are seeing, of course, Canberra continuing to push back on Beijing at the WTO, at least when it comes to barley exports.
Yeah, I mean, they've sort of indicated that they would go to the WTO to talk about barley as well. Like we know earlier this year that China said they were putting on tariffs of about 80% on Australian barley. We haven't sort of gotten much further since they announced those tariffs. But something interesting to keep in mind. We've had Frydenberg, so the Treasurer this morning, say that the government is really seriously looking into ways of supporting these companies that export heavily to China. But he was quite vague on how he would actually support these companies that do have that heavy China market focus. But at the same time, if Australia would be going down that path of supporting many of these companies that do export to China, we've got to be careful about, actually being seen as subsidising a lot of these companies. So, it's sort of elevated now that we're talking about going to the WTO for many of these issues. But again, we've got to be careful about what we're doing back on domestic soil to support a lot of the ag commodities that have been hit by the worsening trade relations.
Sybilla, this comes at a time, of course, the Australian economy has zero external tourism, right? And China is usually a big source of that, particularly going into the Chinese New Year and the festive season, as well as huge demand when it comes to international students as well. Are we looking at potentially this, combined with the lack of visitors during the virus period, potentially play into demand even after borders are reopened?
I mean, potentially that's the concern, isn't it? I mean, we've got to think about the other ways that we sort of export to China, and one of those ways is tourism and education, particularly the education space. We know that Chinese students make up about nearly 40% of our international student population, which is a huge amount of money. So basically, when borders open, it's very unclear as to whether we're actually going to get that revenue stream from China as well, especially given a bit earlier this year, China sort of came out and warned Chinese international students to rethink decisions about studying in Australia. So it's definitely something to consider on the horizon.